We're now going to discuss California Plumbing Code Chapters 10 and 11, which discuss traps and interceptors and storm drainage, respectively. Let's begin by talking about Chapter 10, which discusses traps and interceptors. Each plumbing fixture is required to be separately trapped by an approved liquid seal trap. Additionally, only one trap is permitted per trap arm. However, there is an exception to this in situations where you have a maximum of 3 single compartment sinks or laundry tubs that are 30 inches on center max apart. They can be served by a single trap. However, the waste outlets can't be more than 30 inches apart, and the trap itself has got to be centrally located in that group. Also, the tailpiece length is 24 inches max for any trap. As we previously discussed in Chapter 9, each trap has got to be protected by a vent pipe. And the sole purpose, obviously, of the vent pipe is the protection of the trap and maintaining the airflow in front of and behind each of the traps so that the trap can maintain its vital seal, precluding sewer gases from coming into the occupied areas of the building. The max trap arm lengths vary depending on application and other parameters, and they're identified in Table 1002.2, and obviously will be determined and verified by the design team in the plans for the particular project. The trap arm is permitted to have a 90-degree max change in direction without a clean out. However, 135 degrees is also permitted for pipes that are waste lines, traps that are greater than or equal to 3 inches in diameter. A vent pipe opening is also not permitted to be below the trap weir elevation, and for obvious reasons. If there's any chance that the actual air line could become plugged, or the waste line, it would certainly defeat the effectiveness of the trap if the weir was actually above the vent pipe opening. This particular slide shows an image of a standard P-trap, and some of the terminology that we're using is important to identify and clarify here with this description. This pipe above the trap is called the tailpiece, the fixture outlet pipe, and that's limited to be 24 inches long. The reason is that you don't want the water going down into the trap with such a velocity that it actually washes the trap clean of water. This particular piece of pipe is called the trap arm. So this is the outlet of the actual trap itself. The trap seal, as you can see, is distinguished between these two hashed lines, and this volume of water that's located in this particular area is actually the seal that keeps the sewer gases from being able to come back from the sewer line or from the building drainage line and come back in and migrate into and out of the fixture itself. Each fixture trap must maintain a liquid seal between 2 inches and 4 inches in height. Floor drains are obviously fixtures, and because they are fixtures, they must also be trapped. The traps must be readily cleanable for floor drains. They must be sized to efficiently serve the intended purpose, and that's going to be calculated, designed, and drawn by the design team for each respective project. The drain inlet has got to remain in full view, and there is a chance that trap primers may be required for a floor drain trap depending on the frequency of use or the possibility of evaporation of the liquid seal out of the floor drains trap. But again, that's basically going to be determined by the design team, and in the event that a trap primer is required, it'll be drawn on the plans, and you'll just be inspecting to make sure that the trap primer itself is installed per the plans. Here we see a picture on the right hand side of a typical trap primer valve. The function of these valves is pretty simple. They're designed to just allow a periodic discharge of water into the piping itself that feeds either one or more P-traps underneath floor drains. And the idea is to make sure that the liquid seal in each of the P-traps is maintained. A couple of new amendments have been added. These are basically design criteria. The importance to us as project inspectors is that when you're reviewing materials for approval, you want to make sure that this number, one of these numbers, either ASSE 1018 or ASSE 1044, is included on the label for the trap primer, depending on whether or not the trap primer itself is mechanically operated or actually electronically operated. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about Chapter 11, which covers storm drainage in the 2019 version of the California Plumbing Code. And it's important to identify a couple of terms that are used throughout the storm drainage chapter. And one of them is the term conductor. The conductor is the pipe inside the building conveying storm water from the roof or the storm drain or other approved disposal point. And the other term is leader. That is the pipe outside the building conveying the storm water from the roof or the storm drain or other approved disposal point. It's also known as the downspout. Now, the requirement for storm drainage is basically all roof or paved areas, yards, courts, courtyards, vent shafts, light wells, or similar areas having rainwater. These areas must be drained into a separate storm sewer system, which exists separately from the sanitary drainage system. As a reminder, similar to any other plumbing system installation, the installation of storm drainage systems need to be compliant with the plans and specifications. And the materials used, obviously, and similarly, are going to be identified in the plans and the specifications by the design team. The materials to be used for conductors, leaders, or any underground piping for the storm system need to comply with those we've already discussed in Chapter 7, specifically Table 701.2. Additionally, any ABS or PVC drain, waste, and vent piping must be installed in accordance with Table 1701.1 and per this recent 2019 edition amendment, Table 1701.2, as the design team has determined applicable. Additionally, as a recap, similar to what we've previously discussed in this presentation, the piping installations have also got to comply with any fire stop protection requirements that are located in the California Building Code. Specific to roof drainage, roof areas must be drained by roof drains and gutters, and secondary drainage must also be provided. Cleanouts are required in storm drain systems vertically at the base of each of the leaders, and this is identified where this needs to comply with the requirements of Section 719. With respect to traps on storm drains and leaders, traps are not required for leaders or conductors connected to storm drain system that is a storm water only system. Leaders and storm drains must be trapped in the event that they are connected to a combined sewer system, which is quite rare. Obviously, floor and area drains that are connected to a storm drain must be trapped for the simple reason that floor and area drains are considered plumbing fixtures, and all plumbing fixtures are required to be trapped. For roof drains, in addition to the fact that they're required to be trapped, they need to also include domed strainers. Now, for testing of storm drainage, there's been a simple number change reflected by the red font and the underline for the number 7. So section 1107 addresses testing now in the 2019 version of the CPC. And basically, testing isn't required for leaders or any other perforated or open jointed drain line. And the testing of the underground portion of the storm drain is required, and that's going to follow the same protocols as underground drainage piping within a building, which is a 10-foot head for 15 minutes with no leakage. And also to repeat, air is also permitted to be used for testing of the underground storm drain system, except for plastic. Here's a picture on the right that's made to make a product inspector think. I mean, as you look at this, you can see that there's a leader, and at the bottom of the leader there's the required clean out. And the question is here, there's 3 90s in this particular piping that comes after the clean out. And the question is, shouldn't there be another clean out installed? And the tricky part of this is you need to remember that you only need a clean out if you've got 135 degrees or more of cumulative horizontal change in direction. And as we look at this picture, you can clearly see, well, somewhat clearly, that 2 of these 90s that are being pointed out are actually oriented in the vertical direction. So you've actually only got 1 90-degree angle in the horizontal direction. So that's the trick for this photo, but it's meant to impress upon everyone the understanding that you only need a clean out in a drain line for every 135 degrees of horizontal change in direction. So that's what you should take from this.